What's going on, Facebook family, YouTube family? Hope everything is going well with you. Just want to share something real quick with you before we get started with tonight's lean in session. Listen, I'm going to step to the side and allow these powerful women to share their insight and their expertise, their knowledge, and their anointing with you on the subject of managing feelings and emotions. You say, what does this have to do with hijacked and dealing with the spirit of offense? Well, when you're on the right side of this and you did not take the bait of victimization, you're not taking the bait of being a victim, and you're not allowing what someone did to offend you, you still need to manage your feelings and emotions about the situation. Because as long as you feel the pain and the hurt, and please understand me so that you won't get this misconstrued. Listen, when just because you didn't take offense to what they said or what they did, doesn't mean that you don't feel the pain of what they did. Doesn't mean that what they did not hurt you and cause a degree of trauma. I want you to understand that. Just because you feel pain doesn't mean that you've taken offense to what they've done. It just means that you're human. That's all that means. But on the right side of offense, you didn't take offense to it. You didn't allow what they did to control how you operate and to control your behavior. But you still need to manage your feelings and emotions, because anytime the pain and the hurt is still present, the trap of offense is somewhere close by. And the enemy does not stop at your refusal to take the bait. He will continually try to massage you into and to manipulate you into taking the bait. So you want to manage your feelings and emotions, because he's going to work through that avenue again because of what they've done to you and how that made you feel. So he's going to work through that particular avenue or avenues, feelings and emotions. So you want to learn how to manage them, and you want to be strategic and diligent in how you manage your feelings and emotions. Well, that's enough for me. Listen, I hope you're excited tonight as I am. I'm ready to hear these women. I know they have a lot to say. I guarantee you they're going to help you along the way. So get your notepads ready, get your pens ready. However you take notes on your smart device or whatever, they're going to have a lot to say. They're going to have plenty to say. These are powerful women of God. They're anointed, and they are ready to minister to you tonight. All right, that's enough about me. All right, back to them.
Hey, everybody. How are you doing? We have got some friends. Welcome here tonight. Be sure and like and share this. I've got some really great women in here tonight. I just suggested this to my husband last week as we were talking, he and I, and so he said, let's do it. And so he gave us free reign. I don't know. He may take that back. Good evening to everybody that's already on here. I'm not as good at looking at comments because I will get really distracted. So we're going to try. But first of all, I want to talk about who we have on tonight. Now, I've talked to these ladies and I told them this exact same thing, but we've got Miss Crystal Herbert and Miss Monica Austin tonight. Crystal, she and I have built a very healthy relationship over the last year and a half to 2 years. I would say probably the last year and a half. And I know her and I see her interactions on a daily basis, really. And then Miss Monica Austin, she is, I just told her this. I said, I've seen you from afar and I've had interaction with you, but recently I've been around her teaching. I've been around her in our rehearsals. And this woman, not only is she powerful, but she is funny. And so is Crystal. So we love it. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. We'll start with you, Miss Monica, and you just tell the people a little bit about who you are and anything else you want to say.
Okay, I'm Monica Austin. I'm married to the wonderful, great, inspiring, and
I knew that was coming.
Miss Carrie Neal Austin. We've been married for 24 years. By day, I am a marriage and family therapist. I've been doing that probably about 16 years. I love to read. I love to bowl. I like to do exciting things. So I'm just ready to roll, whatever we got going on tonight.
Well, we are ready. We're going to see. Okay. So Miss Crystal, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. I am also married. I was not going to even mention Justin, but look at Miss
I know I'm about to go in on my husband.
Mention your man.
Well, I am married to the wonderful Justin Herbert.
There you go.
I have 4 kids, one whom is about to graduate this year, and it's been all of a sudden emotional. So I am, if we talk about that too long, I'll cry because I'm a crier anyways. But no, I work for our church, Quest Church, and I just love Miss Jamie. She's one of my greatest friends, and I'm very honored to be on here tonight.
Yeah, we're excited. So I'm going to pause and talk about my husband. Did y'all see that list of 25 things he put about me? Okay, so we talked a little bit about this, but usually when people do that on Facebook, like show moments of affection on there verbally, I'm always like, what happened? That's the first thought. I hate that about myself, but I think that, right? I think, what happened? What is he doing? And not to me, I'm saying about other people. Well, anyway, he's really just like that. He's really just like that. He did nothing. He just loved on his wife. He probably knew I was struggling a little bit with the kids yesterday and just needed a little pick me up. And so I loved it. Thank you. He's right here with me. He didn't want me to say that. He has to do all this managing. Anyway, so he's teaching an awesome Bible study right now on Saturday mornings, talking about dealing with the spirit of offense. And we've been talking about managing your feelings and emotions. And I think this is going to help all of us tonight. It's helped to me. This whole Bible study has. It's even went into parts of my life where I thought, oh, I didn't know I struggle with that, but I do. And I got to get this right. And which is healthy for all of us to do that. But we're going to talk about managing feelings and emotions. And one of the things about in managing our feelings and emotions is healthy and honest communication. And so we're going to go through a couple of things here and hopefully, and we know that you will glean from this as we talk about it. And I know these women have got some great things to say. So we're going to start with you, Miss Monica. So let's tackle that healthy and honest communication.
That's a big one because communication, that means you're trying to impart some kind of information to somebody else. And the thing is, we communicate whether it's verbal or nonverbal. And some of the nonverbals are what people read into more than sometimes even what comes out of our mouth. Communicate. If you're not communicating with somebody, then how will they even know what's going on with you or how you're feeling? And we have to make our relationships a safe place for us to be able to communicate with another person. Because if another person knows maybe that you're a boisterous person, I'll say, if they bring something to you and you kind of lose it, they're not going to bring, they're going to bring you something one time. And when you lose it on them, they're probably not going to bring you anything. So that's why we have to learn how to manage those emotions. And I like to talk about women because I'm a woman. So then they can't say we picking on the women, but I'm going to pick on the women. I'm going to pick on the women because sometimes we allow our emotions to kind of control us. And I had read this saying, I can't remember in whatever book I was reading. It says, my feelings are not the boss of me. Yes, we have feelings and we have emotions, but we can't allow them to regulate our life, because if we did, we'd be like this all the time. We'd be like those little bobbleheads. Yeah. We were not created to be bobbleheads. We were created to communicate with one another in a healthy and respectful way. And maybe that's sometimes where we get off, because we think everybody should just this is just how I am. That's a cop out. And you just need to deal with me how I am. But if Jamie's more soft-hearted, now I'm a little bit more, no, I'll use Crystal because I know Crystal's soft-hearted. Crystal's more soft-hearted and I'm probably more hardcore in like communication. And it is not that one of us is wrong and the other is right. It's just that we're different. So if I'm going to approach Crystal, I'm going to approach Crystal more softly. Because she won't be saying, oh my God, what happened?
Yes.
So we have to think about who we're communicating in order to communicate effectively. And that's all I'll say right now.
Crystal, we're going to go there. But if you don't know me yet, but I'm kind of a jelly bean. My husband's always said that, like, I have a hard exterior and a soft inside. just depends on who I'm
That's
dealing
true.
with. I've been around a long time that some things don't hurt my feelings, and you hit me on a wrong day, women, as you know, and I'm a mush privately, right? So anyway, Miss Crystal, that was great, Monica, that we're gleaning from that. Miss Crystal, what do you have to say about that?
Well, my dad always taught me that communication is key. Things cannot get accomplished when you don't communicate, and great things can be accomplished when you do communicate.
It is true.
And one of the number one issues in any relationship is just simple communication. And I think a lot of people mistake that for other things like, oh, we have a problem with this or we have a problem with that. And once you get a mediator involved and you tell the mediator, hey, this is what I'm thinking, this is what's going on, and then he or she is like, no, I think this is what's going on. And really you're finding out, well, neither of you knew what was really going on because nobody was communicating. Right. And it just solves so many problems. I have really just started myself to be more clear with exactly what I'm thinking in the moment I'm thinking it, without being disrespectful or not honoring, especially with my husband. But a lot of times men just really literally do not know what we're thinking. And so I've had to be very, very clear, like no buffering or maybe a little this, maybe no, like this is exactly what I'm thinking right at this very moment. And you can be upset about how I'm feeling, but this is how I'm feeling. And I'm just telling you. And when I tell him, he's like, oh, well, thanks for telling me. Like, that's it. And I'm like,
we can think someone intends something and they don't intend that at all. And part of communication is being clear about that, because one of the ways of helping not be offended or stay in that place is to not look at everything as somebody's got negative intent towards you. Part of that comes from having wounds from the past. When you think that, I see some police tactics and stuff right there at the side.
Sorry.
Yes, okay. I like it. So anyway, so we have to do better at doing that, and not thinking that everything that somebody's, especially in relationships, husbands, spouses, friends, you can be be offended so much that you can take everything that somebody says as being very offensive. I know people like that. I've probably had a week like that sometimes, just to be honest. And part of maturing is to get rid of that. So is there anything else that you guys would like to say about healthy and honest communication in marriages, friendships?
I think even when you talk about healthy communication, people always think that is talking and speaking. One of the healthy things about that makes it healthy and honest communication, if you're listening. Because most people are not listening to understand. Usually they say when someone starts talking 10 seconds into that, you're just trying to figure out what your response is. Instead of actually listening to the whole thing somebody says, then take a minute, because I think we think something's gonna happen if we have to jump right in and say, well, let me tell you what I think. No, let's take time. Well, I'm going into the pause, but sometimes you have to say, you know what? So what are they saying? And then sometimes you have to repeat it back to them. And then being specific, like Crystal said, I remember when Carrie and I first got married, and I said, hey, can you wash the dishes? Will you wash the dishes? That's what I said to him. Okay, he went in there and he washed the dishes. To a man, that meant only wash the dishes. To a woman, that means I'm going in there and I'm going to wipe off the countertops. I'm going to wipe the stove. I'm going to wash the pots, sweep the floor. And then that's when I knew that, see, what we think is not what somebody else thinks, because we all come from different backgrounds and have different experiences. I always tell people, if I said the word dog to 10 people, you're going to get 10 different images, or maybe at least 7 to 8 different images of dog, because the dog I was imagining, somebody else was not imagining it. So that's why we have to be very clear in our communication.
That is true. And Crystal, do you remember one time when Bishop, we were at a staff like learning session, and he was talking about, especially like on staff and or in a workplace, how when we are maybe feeling offended and we stop communication and we isolate.
Yes.
Do you remember when he talked about that, how unhealthy that was?
Yes.
So one of the things that he said, and I'm going to paraphrase this because I can't say it the way he did, but one of the things that he said was to stay connected and communicate, like what you said, stay connected and communicate, because when you do that, it keeps you. The worst thing you can do in relationship, on any workplace, whatever, is to isolate and not talk something through. I'm a talker. Like if something happens with me and my husband, I want to talk it out right then and right there, because I get that feeling in my stomach that I need to have resolution.
Yeah.
Okay, Carrie Austin says, wash the dishes means wash the dishes. Clean the kitchen means clean the kitchen.
He still doesn't get it. See? I'm trying to have open, honest communication, and he's not getting it.
Because I could be there and say, honey, what are you thinking about? And he's like, nothing.
But that is true, Jamie.
About something. Nothing. Like, did you just error? Like, what do you think? It could be literal. There's been times that I'll say something that's loaded with, like, you're supposed to know this, just like what you talked about. He's like, but you didn't tell me, and I hate that. You need to make it plain, and I want to say you're supposed to know.
Yeah. Right.
Mind reading. Jamie, you brought up mind reading. Mind reading is a no-no with healthy communication.
Right.
I was definitely a blamer of you not being able to mind read. Like at the beginning of my marriage, like, how do you not know? Why do you not even think that way? Like, what's wrong with you?
What is wrong with you? I know. Okay, so I'll tell it. Me and Tony, I'm from Pot County, South Pot County to be exact. He's from the east side. We don't think the same about anything, hardly, except for when it comes to church, right?
Yeah.
There was some communication stuff right there. There was a lot of places for offense.
Yes.
To be offended. But this is great. Is everybody that's listening getting something out of this? If you are, hit your thumbs and hearts. I've never said that. I've always heard people say that. Give me some of those.
You did it so well.
That's right. So we've talked about some of the ways of develop. We are on the right side of offense, and that's what we've been talking about. So we've talked about managing our feelings, and healthy and honest communication is part of that. But part of that is also healthy intake. So about who we listen to, managing what's coming in, managing how many voices are that we're listening to in our life. So I know beyond, because we talk, Crystal, I know this, that I know there's ways of managing these things, that we can help somebody that they may not know. So let's touch on that. We'll start with you on this subject. So it's yours.
Mine?
Yes.
Okay.
And then we're going to Miss Monica.
All right. Okay, so growing up in ministry, I'll just start there.
That growing up in ministry, I already know.
A lot of people, and this is just my experience, I'm not going to speak for everybody else in the PKs and ministry kids. From my experience, growing up, I felt like there was a lot of people that thought that they could speak into my life with or without my permission. And when I was younger, my dad would always say, like, you can tell those people to walk, you need to walk away from them. But I was, as I am, as you guys have come to know me, I am very gentle with people, or at least I try to be. And when I was younger, I was not good at telling people to, you can't speak into my life. Like, how am I going to tell somebody that? So I used to just sit there and take people prophesying, all the things, or people feeling like they could confide in me. And I was like, wait a second, I don't want to know this, or them wanting me to confide in them. And the older I got, I have learned to, I have a lot of circles around me, spaces, my intimate circle, my good friends, then acquaintances. And it has been a true learning process for me to keep those people in those spaces, because I don't want a lot of voices in my life. I don't want a lot of voices. I want my husband's voice. I want, obviously, God's voice. I want my pastor's voice, which is also my boss and my dad. So I get a 3-in-1 there. My parents, there's very few people that I really want to speak into my life, because, and I'll just say this, being a mom of 4, there's a lot of chatter from my children. So when I do have a moment and space and time for people to actually speak into my life, I take it seriously. Like, I don't want to give everybody my time and my listening ears, not because I'm being mean, but because my time is valuable, and my heart and my state of mind is valuable. And when I let a lot of people speak to me, I tend to carry those things.
Yeah.
And that's just me. I'm a carrier. I worry. I want to take the burdens of others. And I did that for a very long time, and it almost killed me worrying about other people. Now I've gotten to a place where I can kind of put up a little bit of a healthy boundary with people and say, no, that's not healthy. So I'm going to move on. And if you're saying something to me that's not healthy, I'm going to shut it down, and I'm going to say, I don't want to hear it. Like, I just keep it moving. And then the people that do speak life into me, I value that. I value that time. And I value those people that can speak life into me.
Because the garbage that we let in affects our communication.
Yeah, and it affects
every area.
Everything.
It affects the way you see. It affects the way you see the things that have happened in your life, and the experiences can affect the way that you receive anything, receive.
And
it's part of intake.
I'm going to say this, and then Miss Monica, you can take this. But I read this a couple years ago, and when I read it, I really grabbed it. A lot of people that get offended, because we're talking about offense, right? A lot of people that get offended will bring their offense from that person, whoever it is, to you and want you to be offended with them.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to do that, especially when they're your girl or whatever. You're like, oh, I don't like her either now, or whatever that is. And you start creating a false narrative of someone that you don't have that experience with. And that's another reason why it's so important to keep healthy relationships, and healthy communication. And when somebody does have an offense with somebody else, you just take it with a grain of salt and let your own self deal with how you feel about that situation.
Yeah. And part of a lot of things that I had heard you say, it's about protecting your peace.
Yes.
It's just protecting your peace, Miss Monica, that was great, Crystal. I'm learning. I'm going to have to watch this back even and learn, because I'm reading people's comments too. I'm sorry that we have acknowledged everybody. I know we've got a lot of birthdays on this thread so far, like Miss Carolyn Copeland, her birthday.
Yes, happy birthday.
Happy birthday to you guys.
I love her.
But yeah, protecting peace. Monica.
When I thought about managing your intake, I thought about, in order to do that, you need to know who you are in Christ. Because when you know who you are, then if someone is coming to you, then you get to be the manager of how you respond to that person.
Yeah.
Because we have to say, if there's when you know what your purpose and your goals are, and just like you say, if somebody's trying to speak into your life, you got to say, yeah, that doesn't line up. Right. Especially if they're saying, well, God said for me to tell you something, and you need it. Well, it should be confirming what he's already told me. Exactly. He ain't gonna throw no zinger on me from left field. And I'm just thinking, oh, okay, we're not gonna do that. Then also managing our intake, that means we need to protect our mind. What are we even thinking? First of all, what are you even thinking about yourself? Because if your self-esteem is good and you know who you are in Christ, then when somebody brings something to you, you get to say, you know what? what am I even going to get out of this if I allow this person to offend me?
Right.
Because I used to be offended very easily. If somebody looked at me or didn't talk to me, or I'm like, well, they just walked right past me. Oh my God, I can't
Well,
believe
and when you're in that state, you're looking for it. You're
Yeah.
looking for it. When you're looking for it, you're gonna find it. You're gonna
One
find it.
person do something to you, you actually start looking for other people to do that to you. So then you have to ask yourself, what do I even get out of being offended? Because it's like you're trying to lick your wounds and you have this martyr spirit. And I was like, I refuse to be a martyr. I'm not going to have a martyr mentality. No, we're not going to do that. So then also even protecting your intake, I always say, because I'm not like a touchy-feely person. I hug people when I know they're huggers. I hug people when I know they're huggers. And when they come to me, I'll just go ahead and hug. Okay. But do not expect me to initiate. I'm just telling y'all. But if you're a hugger and I know you're a hugger, I will go ahead and say, okay, let me go ahead and get this over with. I'm stepping out of my hula hoop space.
Right.
So the thing is, I have a hula hoop space and everybody needs to have a hula hoop space. And what are people, you can't let everybody get in that hula hoop space. We all have different relationships in our lives at different levels. You do have your inner core circle. Then you have people outside that. Everybody can't get in my hula hoop space.
That's
and
right.
I'm okay with that.
Yes.
But in order for, and that's how I stay like unoffended too, because I now, if somebody doesn't speak to me or whatever, I say, ooh, they must be having a bad day.
Yes.
Or
it's on them, right?
if you walk by me and I see you, I'm going to say hi now, because usually I be saying whatever. See, that shows God works on me. God's working on you. If you know you offended too, ask God to not allow you to take on offenses that you don't need to sign the package for everybody who's trying to offend you anyway.
Right. And then another thing of managing intake is when if you do think that you're offended and operating and taking on that spirit of offense, don't go be seeking counsel from everybody, because all you're trying to do is try to get them to be offended too.
Get on your side.
Right. I mean, I've lived this. I'm 43 years old. I've been in this thing a long time. I've done that. I know for a fact, probably. And I've matured out of that after 20 years. When I was 20 years old, I was probably doing that. But, I mean, there's just things to do that can manage other people's intake too, a little bit. I mean, quit taking junk to them, okay? I mean, help them out. But I do love that hula hoop space concept. I really like that.
Yes.
Crystal, do you have anything to add?
What do you have to say about that? About managing your intake?
To me? I'm hoping this thing. No, I didn't listen. This is something that I do, because I can tell whenever I'm off a little bit. If I haven't been spending time in my word the way I should, I talked to my husband about this. I can tell if I've spent all of my time with my running around and doing activity and being busy and not really centered myself. I can tell whenever I get off, And so, but managing intake, I make sure that I'm listening. I go back and listen to Bishop's sermon every Monday whenever I'm cleaning. There's on our podcast. Thank you guys for putting that up, our team. I love that. I listen to my husband. I re-listen to it. Not every time do I get to do that on both of those, but I do try to do that. That's something that I do. So my intake, one, is filling myself up with the word and prayer and worship. Because if you get busy doing that kind of stuff, there ain't a lot of space for anything else, right? It's just how it is. So then I do pay attention to when I am so, like, when somebody comes to me with something and it may be foul about someone or whatever, I'm like, ugh, something rises up in me immediately. I hate it. Let me tell you what changed that. Let me tell you what changed that in me to set that definite was because whenever I went through what I went through 5 years ago, and people I know that didn't know me, we're talking about things, right? I'm sure we're going and telling. When it happens to you, it changes the way that you treat. That's why it changes the way that you treat the situations. That's like I tell my husband all the time about Bishop. When we went to the church, and he wasn't the pastor when we went there, but he was here, and I really felt that God just lined it right up, because he'd been through some things as well. And the way that he treated us was with compassion and kindness, because he'd been through some things as well. So I think that I just sidetracked that a big time on that. But what I'm saying is intake is not letting people bring stuff to you. And if something is offensive to you, either squash that right there and don't look at things with ill intent, because we had our brother on the other week and he said, it's really hard to offend me because I'm not going to let you offend me. Right. Like he's like, I'm so full
like that.
Yeah. Like I'm just not going to let it. And he hasn't always been that way, to be honest. I mean, this is honest communication here, and it does not always feel good for me to expose things that I've dealt with in my life. Right. But I'm just saying, these are just things I think everyone, if you're honest, has went through. And so managing intake, though, it comes with maturity too, but there are not allowing, first of all, don't go seek counsel in every little thing. That's the first thing.
Amen.
Because they're not going to give you the right counsel. Get in the word, listen to the word, feed your spirit, man.
Yes.
That's how I handle things.
Take you there. I mean, worship. Sometimes if you can just put on a song and then it's like God just supernaturally comes in and you just have that connection. And then all that stuff, even that you're feeling, he just kind of washes it away and just saying, hey, I love you. It doesn't even matter. And it's just like
matters.
Warmth.
You're giving that.
And then if you start praying for that person, you start praying for that person, then you don't even feel ill will about them anymore.
Right.
I talked about that last week. That was something for me. I'm going to cover that just for a split second. I had talked about this, but I had somebody in my life that we just kind of were going at it a little bit. We didn't really like each other, and God dealt with me about that. And I really knew that I needed to get over that. And so I took a picture of that person and I put that picture of that person in my office, and I prayed for them every day. But I didn't pray. I wasn't praying, God,
like get them.
It wasn't. I said, God bless their home. God bless their finances. God bless their relationship. God bless her. Give her every desire of her heart. You know what I mean? That I felt I was offended by this person. Let me just say that. You know what I mean? And so it kind of set up to where I didn't even want to see him in a grocery store.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I hate that. I do not have that in my life now. I won't allow that to happen in my life.
Yeah.
And so, but that is a way that sometimes that's healthy. And you brought that up and that reminded me. So let's see what our next, do you have anything else you want to talk about that? Because I really like this next subject, the power of pausing. And we kind of were, intermingling that. So let's start with you, Miss Monica, about the power of pausing and what that means.
I think when you feel like you have been offended, you always need to take a step back, because it may not be them, it may be you. And just how you're feeling that day. You just kind of got up on the wrong side, and then anybody can just look at you wrong. And you're like, what you looking at?
Right. I've made somebody cry before, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't mean that, and it just.
Because sometimes if something, we have to think about too, if something major is going on in our lives, then we're going to be a little raw. So then that's a time that you even need to protect yourself, protect what you're thinking and your thoughts and everything, because anybody can say anything to you and you twist it and turn it.
Yes.
But then even if you see that person, well, they offended you, then let's say, okay, we probably need to put our, be more mature and actually go, gosh, to that person. Because one thing you can say, sometimes if you can say, you know what, that's not going to offend me, and it goes away, you don't even have to really deal with it anymore. Yeah. But what if that person keep coming, that they keep coming to you, and even though you put them, Jamie, in the frame, but you keep getting that.
I wasn't in the frame. It was just stuck to my computer with a piece of tape.
You're like,
that may be the Lord saying you need to go get that right, because it's lying on you, and it for that release. Because I was not the person who would even go to people and say, forgive me, or I'm sorry. Carrie tells me the first 4 years of our marriage, he said, I never said I was sorry. But that was because I was always right. I just want to put that out there. But, and the thing about it is, if we're just being transparent here, I remember growing up, and, I love my mother, but when I was growing up, she was hardcore. But everybody probably thinks their mother was kind of hardcore. And I didn't know this, but I was harboring things against my mother. And I was a grown up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I went through this Purity with Purpose class. And they kept talking about forgiveness, which I'm jumping a little bit. But let me tell you, I was in my 30s then, and I couldn't call her and tell her. I couldn't call her and tell her. I wrote her a letter, sent it in the mail to say, you know what? This is some things that I'm harboring or whatever. Mm-hmm. And forgive me for even thinking about this, because sometimes we don't know. Sometimes things settle under, and they're under there, and then something brings them up. But the thing is, when God brings something up to you that you need to go to a person, I don't care if it was 10 years ago, 10 minutes ago, or whatever, we need to follow that leading, because that means he has made that way for that hard place in there to be chipped away and that relationship to be reconciled.
Yeah. So here we are talking about managing our feelings and emotions and the power of the pause. And you covered that really good. Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. Like we could talk about this for a long time, and we are, because I got control of it tonight. My husband does not. Crystal, what do you think about the power of the pause?
Well, just from experience, I am a reactor, and by nature, when something upsets me, I react right away. I do not pause. I'm learning to, though. My husband, on the other hand, is the one that can think when something happens and think it through and, process everything. I'm not good at processing, but I have been learning. But it's been so good for me to learn, because I've been able to teach my children, when something happens to you that you're offended, naturally, the first three, the girls, are like me, and they want to react and respond quickly to an offense. And it's been interesting with me trying to teach them to do this exact thing, and just pause for a second and say, and me telling them, hey, let's not get mad about it. Let's just hang on a second. Let's think this through. Why do you think that person did that? Maybe you just took it the wrong way. And I give them all the other options to give the person the benefit of the doubt before, they already attach themselves to be offended for whatever kind of reason. And by teaching them, I'm learning myself. The pause is a powerful place to be, because it is a place of reflection. It's a moment where you can really think it through. Like y'all were saying before, was that really me? Am I just having a bad day? Did I take that the wrong way? What's really going on here? And there's something extremely mature about being able to pause after an offense and just really think that thing through, because out of experience, I am reactionary, like 0 to 100. If you upset me, if you talk about my, family or my dad or my husband, I'm coming out.
You're gonna roll up.
Yeah, 2 seconds.
That's how I am.
The power of pause. Let me tell you, that is a good one for me.
Right, because I am not real reactionary in that I'll take it and process it, but I am, like you said, when it comes to my family or my husband, if I hear something like that, sometimes I just react. Like it's like almost like whenever you don't manage your emotions correctly, you'll black out and just cut somebody.
Yes, I will. I will be like,
yeah. Like that's one thing you do not touch, or my baby brothers, or my sister, or my mom, or my dad, anything like that.
If we don't, and you have to think, if we don't hit that pause button, we're gonna have to be hitting the redo button.
That's right. That's good. That's good. That is so true.
Can I just say something on that? I'm going to go back to Justin. He always. This is what he would tell me when we first got married, because I was very reactionary, right, and just pop off. He would, and then I would get mad that he wouldn't get as mad as me, He taught me Crystal, I'm never going to say something in the moment that I'm going to have to regret later and have to apologize for. He always says, I never want to have to apologize for something when we're arguing later, after the argument is done. We're going to speak clearly and we're going to take it down a notch. We don't act like that. And that is something I have literally learned from him is Crystal, don't say something that you're going to have to apologize or redo later. When you take that pause, it's brilliant.
Yeah, that is true. I have learned that in relation. I say I'm not reactive, but in a relationship with my husband, I probably am. I know I can get a little hot-headed sometimes on some things, and he's calm.
Yes.
You know what I mean? When tornadoes are coming, he's calm. He's calm. And I'm like, I know I've said stuff I've regretted. I know it. I probably even said I'm going to call my dad. My dad's not even alive. You know what I mean? If you don't take me to a storm shelter right now, you know what I mean?
That is so me. That is so me. I'm going to tell my dad.
No, but in relationships, like just in normal everyday, I'm not reactive like that. I'm very even. But when it comes to somebody I'm living with every day, you know, like and he's taught me that. And Monica, you hit something a while ago that made me think that, you know, whenever you say that there may be days that we're maybe emotional and we can be easily offended that day or whatever. Thank God for friends that point that out in you, because sometimes I don't see it. I there's been moments like, thank God for people and friends that surround you that will tell you like, hey, you're a little off, like your nostrils are flaring a little too much today. You know, what I mean? You're smarting off a little bit about something, or you sound angry. You know, I mean, thank God for friends.
Jamie, I'm going to expect that from you from now on. Okay.
I think we have a very healthy.
No, you do.
But you got it. But you've got it.
No, Crystal, you a little off today.
You're a little off. You're a little emotional.
All I can say is thank God he has put men evidently in all of our lives that have that calmness about us.
I couldn't like, my husband talks about friends guide blind spots, you know, like the things that we don't see. You know, he just posted that too.
Yeah, he just did.
I really need to get used to reading comments, because there are a lot of people saying stuff and I know it's good and I am not reading a thing because I'm just focused right here, like don't look away. So I'll go back and read some of this stuff. Thank you again for those. We're going to pause and thank you for joining this conversation. If you have some questions, post them. My husband will put them up there and we'll see them. But so we're covering some good ground tonight. The next thing we're going to talk about is do you ladies want to say anything else about the pause? We're good on that. We could talk for a long time about all this, but we need to move. Okay, so the power of forgiveness. There is so much freedom and power in forgiveness. I wrote something down. Let me find it here. It's okay. So it's how to forgive and overcome hurt, right? Mm-hmm. So forgiveness should become a natural emotion as we walk out our transformed lives in Christ, because Jesus forgives. There is nothing that we can do to separate us from his love. It is hard to develop. This is what I like. It is hard to develop a spirit of offense if we are good forgivers. And this should be our motto, forgive well. So who wants to tackle this first? The power of forgiveness. You can give us examples, because I know that in life that we've forgiven people. Forgiving is a choice and a commandment. So who wants to start? Miss Monica or Miss Crystal?
Miss Monica, you got this one.
Okay, Miss Monica.
The person who's still learning that. Okay.
Amen. I will not deny. I will not deny.
One thing I think with the power of forgiveness is I think about we have to commit to forgive on a daily basis.
Yes.
And not carry things over until the next day, no matter what it is. That doesn't mean, because I know we said when people offend us, that doesn't mean that we weren't hurt when they do that. But we have to, the quicker we forgive, the quicker we can start healing from whatever that offense is. Right. If we nurse that wound, that's like having a scab. You know, you fall and a scab comes over there, and then you pick, and kids pick it off, and then it reopens it. And when we open a wound like festers. And I was reading something that says like wounds attack flies.
Mm.
And flies are a symbol like of evil spirits. We don't want those wounds being open where it's because when you're offended and you don't forgive, you spend so much energy, unnecessary energy, and you really get nothing out of it. You do get something out of it.
Sleepless nights.
You get sleepless nights, you get headaches, and when we don't forgive, it even causes physical things in our body to take place. That's why some people, have high blood pressure.
Yeah.
Because they're carrying this thing around that they were never meant to carry around. Yeah. That's why Jesus told us, cast your care on me.
Yeah.
If we cast them on him, we shouldn't be carrying it any longer.
Right.
So as the day goes on, if we say, you know what, I'm going to choose to forgive that person. Because forgiveness is not saying that person was right or what they did to you was right. But if you don't forgive, then you're like putting yourself in a prison.
Right.
You want them to do time, but you're the one doing time, because most of the time, if people offend you, they going on with their life.
Right. My mom just said unforgiveness is such a waste of time and energy.
Yes,
it is.
Yes.
And you start really, I have been around people, and I know that we all have, and hopefully we'll never be this type of person, but if we have, but you just don't even want to be around those people because it feels you start stinking to people. Do you know what I mean? They're like, your spirit stinks.
You want to avoid it.
It just stinks. Correct. Like, I cannot hear this story one more time.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then some, like I can't. And I've had to reflect and like, have I been that person? Yeah, probably. Probably. Yeah. Like, I cannot hear this story one more time. And so the power, and like you hit something too, forgiveness, holding that in will physically make you sick. And the bitterness, it just reeks off of you, and there is freedom in forgiveness. That came to me when we were talking. There's so much freedom in forgiveness.
Yes, there is.
And saying, I'm going to do, there was one more thing that it says walking through forgiveness, even if you don't feel it, because there's times, like you said,
it's not a feeling.
And somebody that offended you may never come to you and say, forgive me. But you can show forgiveness towards that. And if we see forgiveness means, like, if we see the person that offended us to act gracious, we can tell when we're healed up, when that doesn't poke at us and it doesn't give you a knot in your stomach.
Yeah.
Crystal, you and I have talked about this through different avenues of life, and how have you dealt with that, and how are you dealing? Because I know that all of us are dealing. Like Monica said, we're going to start with the one that hasn't mastered it, or whatever you said. But what are some ways that we can do that?
So I am currently dealing with some situations where I am, like Miss Monica said, daily choosing to forgive. And I don't think that maybe a special person can just say, yeah, I forgive you, especially when it's really hurtful. Like, I forgive you, and then just never think about it again. Props to that person, bravo. But that's definitely, I don't think, the norm for most people. I think, and like you were also saying, Miss Monica, sometimes you don't know that you really haven't really all the way forgiven someone until something happens. At least I have experienced this, and it triggers something in you, and you're really like bothered. And that happens to me. And when that happens to me, I have to immediately say, okay, God, dang, like I have not fully forgiven because I'm not fully healed yet. So here we go. Here goes the process again. And wake up every morning, and just like God gives us grace and mercies in the morning, new ones, I have to give this person new forgiveness, new grace and mercy as well, until I am fully healed and I can fully forgive them. And as bad as I want to quickly do it, sometimes that is just not always the case. And that's okay. Like Miss Felicia Peters just said, forgiveness is a process. It really is, especially depending on the circumstance. You know, there's petty things that you can forgive people for quickly, obviously. Just get over it. But when those deep cuts and wounds happen, just like you were saying, the bigger the wound, the longer it takes to heal, and the longer it will take to forgive. And especially when it comes from someone that's close to you, and they have done something that's like, you know, kind of takes your breath away, or, you know, feels like you got knocked in the stomach. I'm surely not going to just hop up the next morning and be all right with that person. It's a process. And
just because we're hurt doesn't mean that we're operating in a spirit of offense. That thing's going to hurt us. It doesn't mean that we're not hurt, but it's what we choose to do in the process, walking through it.
Choosing to forgive daily is a task in its own, and it's just something that comes with time, and I think it comes with maturity in Christ. And like also you were saying, Miss Monica, when you have your full identity in God, those types of things and forgiveness become so much easier. When you have not fully surrendered your full identity to God, things like forgiving do not come as easy, because you're dealing with your own flesh and trying to battle that situation on your own without the help of God. And it's so important to give it all to God. As easy as that sounds, it's not, but it's the truth.
And when I think about forgiveness, the forgiveness part of saying I forgive them is like the choice. And it makes me think of when you have surgery, like if you have a cancer or something that's in your body, then you have to go into surgery, and they cut you, they open you up, they take it out, whatever that is, they take it out. Now think about that. If that's the forgiveness part, they're taking that out. And then when they sew you back up, you just don't jump off the table. Right. You know, and say, "All right, they usually say this is going to be 6 months. You need to take it easy for 4 to 6 months. Not months, I guess it's weeks, but 4 to 6, it depends on what kind of surgery you have. But that's how we have to think about it, is we're going to make that conscious decision to say, I forgive you. Then the healing part, that's what comes in, because that doesn't mean that you haven't forgiven them, just because that hurt is still there. When you have surgery, 2 days later, 2 weeks later, you still got some pains in there. I had a relationship a long time ago, and in the course of that relationship, I felt like I was done wrong. I felt like that. But you know what? I made that conscious effort, even though I was really irritated with that person. And I said, you know what? I'm going to forgive them. And I said, even though, because if I wouldn't have forgave them, I couldn't have gone on with my life. Yeah. And I couldn't have I guess, met the wonderful man that I am married to now. Yeah. That person that hurt me back then, do you know 10 years later, that person came to me and asked me for forgiveness?
Wow.
It was 10 years later. I remember it. It was 10 years later. And by the time that person came to me and said they forgave me, I was just like,
I'm already
what? Yeah, got it. Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. You still can make that decision. Yeah. But then it's like you have those feelings. That's what you're working on. Mm-hmm. That's the healing part. That's when God is coming in. I'm going to keep pouring that salve, because you've forgiven them. Because when you get up and say, okay, God, today's a new day, I'm hurting. Yeah. Just because you ain't thinking about rolling up and doing a drive-by. See, you know you're doing better. You know you're doing better.
Yes.
Like, I don't forget.
So y'all do that. Y'all done that
too. Feel in that.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
That is so good. You are I know you are helping somebody. You're helping me.
You know what else is interesting about unforgiveness, and I just thought about this, is how easily you can become a victim, and it literally, like you were saying, Jamie, about that person will carry it. Yeah. You can literally see a person with a serious victim mentality, and it's all rooted in unforgiveness, whether the way I was raised, I had a horrible childhood, I was hurt by so many people, I was da-da-da-da, all those things are like unforgiveness, until you literally become the identity.
Correct.
Unforgiveness. And there's some people that I see that are like that, and I love them. I love them. And I want to shake them by their shoulders and say, you are a screaming victim. And it's time for you to like break out of that.
Right.
Becoming a victim to unforgiveness is the absolute worst to me, because it literally holds you hostage. And you're blocking yourself from so many opportunities and so many relationships and fun in life, experiencing life and joy, when you just become this victim of unforgiveness, and that literally becomes you and inhabits you, and people can see it. They see it on you. And like you were saying, Jamie, you want to like avoid those people. and it makes me sad when I see that happening, especially in women, where you're just like, shake that off. Like, you've got to overcome that, whatever all that is. And then when you do, and you finally experience the freedom of forgiveness, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
It's like you can breathe all the way in. It's so good.
We just need to walk up to people, Crystal, that you see that's doing and start singing, let it go, let it go.
Hey, I'm down for it. I'm down for it. Y'all will just harmonize with me. That would be great.
That's funny. I was like, we shake it off. My girls listen to that on one of the cartoons all the time. It's just part of it. Sometimes we just have to do that. And not trying to get even. That's not up to us. It's just better to walk. And like what you said, Monica, I thought that was a great analogy about surgery, and you're getting up out of surgery, and you're in the healing process, and you're not, and you are, that doesn't mean you're not going to hurt. You know, I think that we covered that a little bit while ago about that. It doesn't mean that you're not going to experience some hurt, but you're dealing with it in a positive manner. And, you know, it's going to take time sometimes. Crystal, you said something a while ago about the people that are closest to you are the ones that can hurt you the most.
Yes.
And that is true. And there are things that take time to get over. But I think a real Bishop said, forgiveness frees you. Let God handle them.
Man, it does.
That's true. I've learned that firsthand in my life, you know. And it's just peaceful.
It is.
To know in your life that you are healed and whole. You know? And then that doesn't mean that we're not going to be offended. I ain't gonna say no more. We love you.
Didn't Jesus say we were gonna be offended? Because it's not about if you're going to be offended, it's when you get offended. Then what are you gonna do?
It's the truth.
Right.
So we have to be proactive too. That's why we make the conscious decision before even things happen. God, you know what? Today, you know what? You're with me, so I'm not gonna let anything today offend me. You're gonna help me walk through whatever that is.
That's good. That is good.
And when that happens, like for me, and I'm like, wow, I'm not going to even be offended by that, and I'm just still going to be joyful. I feel like such a grown up, like 39 years old, and I'm like, I am so grown right now. I am a real woman. Look at me go. I am not offended. And it's such a good feeling. I feel like it's a long time coming for me. Like, God, Crystal, you wasted so many years.
Okay, you hear something about wasting. People waste time and waste years.
People waste time, yes. And it ages you. And
I mean, you can be 16 in the second grade in school, and they're going to move you on just because it's embarrassing to have a 16-year-old that can't pass second grade. But in this walk that we do, you can stay in second grade for the rest of your life.
Oh, yeah.
And you look like so you don't have to. Man, I know we could stay on forgiveness for a long time, but let's talk. I mean, is there anything else, any questions that you have? People are saying some great stuff, and I'm seeing it. Sometimes you have to look at the root of the person that hurt you. Are they coming from a place of hurt? True. And Monica, you talked about that earlier. Like, are they going through something? I think it was you that said something to that nature. But if someone says something to you to offend you, sometimes if you know the backstory of that person and you're thinking, wait, what are they? It is coming from a place of hurt.
Yeah.
I've experienced that in my life, you know.
Absolutely.
So is there anything you ladies would love to say on this subject? Whatever it is. Wild card.
I just think I've learned a lot just listening to us. Listening to us. I mean, because I think none of us are never too old or anything to learn anything and get different insights from people. And then even when Crystal talked about that victim mentality, when something offends you, you have to learn to change the narrative of that story. Like, what story do you continue to tell yourself over and over and over? And you have to change it, because then when you start changing it, because whatever you magnify is going to get bigger. And you can magnify the negative or you can magnify the positive. And when you go through hard places or you have been offended by people in your life, you can even ask yourself, what am I learning from this?
Right.
Because you can grow up. God will help you grow in any situation. He'll help you grow, and he just shines the light on you to say, okay, Monica, he does a lot of tweaking on me, I'll say. Yeah. And he'll be tweaking on me until I meet him. Yeah. But the thing is, we have to also learn to say, you know what, no more. Sometimes we have to draw a line in the sand and just say no more.
Yeah. There's something like, especially in women, I feel the older I get, the more mature I get, there's just boundaries that you set. And then there's also you're learning that, like, no, I don't have to live like this. I'm not going to live like this. You know, like, and that's great advice, as Monica.
And another thing about saying no is the flip side of that is, once you forgive somebody, that doesn't give you a reason to give them an excuse to misbehave again. Right. So what I mean by that is, say you're in an unhealthy relationship and you forgive that person, that does not give that other person the right to misbehave again or to hurt you again.
Correct.
Forgiving somebody in a relationship should not be like this with them all the time. It should be because if you're forgiving someone, you're hoping that they're repenting. And when you repent, that means you stop and go the opposite way and you don't do that thing again, right?
I can love you from afar. I love you, sister, but I can love you.
That's right. Some people you do love from afar.
Yeah, you do. Like
abusive relationships. Forgiving them does not mean you allow them to keep hurting you, so you could they get a free pass. Oh yeah, she forgave me, or he forgave me, so I can act wrong again. So don't mistake being a forgiving person with being weak or being
definitely.
It's strong. You have to be really strong to forgive, actually.
Yes. And forgiving means I'm going to forgive you, but we're going to put a stop to this on both ends. I'm not going to live in this offense and deal with this over and over again, and I'm not going to allow you to do those things to me anymore as well.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Monica, you look like you wanted to say something.
No, I'm just listening, like, correct. Like,
I thought, well, we're at 9:04.
Family therapist. Am I even right?
I know. I'm like, God, she could teach on this all the time. You know what? She was in their Marriage Rocks class. I think it'll be next week. Is that right? Again, next Wednesday. They were talking about the differences between men and women, and I thought that was so interesting. And I'd forgotten while I'm listening to her that she's a marriage and family counselor. I'm like, hey, if you want some free counseling, go to that class.
What do I even need to say? Monica, I love what you like to say. What do I know?
Forgiveness and healthy boundaries. That's right, Miss Hillary. That is right. Well, let's see. Oh, for Mr. The Carrie Austin.
You are
going to forget. You just choose not to allow it to continue to affect us. That is true.
Yeah.
That's true. Is my husband still watching?
He made a comment a few minutes ago. Yes.
Forgiveness is not a pass to repeat the offense.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That is true. Yeah. I've really enjoyed this series as a whole. I don't know how much longer he's going to go with it, but It's helping me. It's helping me. So,
Yeah.
ladies, I want to say thank you for being on. We must do this again.
Yes.
We could talk about marriage and relationships all night. I know it. I was trying not to do that, but
Me too. I'll just go there though.
the Braden White is on.
Braden, are you
Everybody's
learning anything?
Yeah, Braden. Oh Lord. Caleb went to lunch with me and Chastity yesterday, like to the to Mazio's, and I'm like, poor Caleb, he's learning a lot about women right now.
You know what? I feel like Jacob, Caleb, and Braden always learn a lot in our staff meetings. Listen, if they're not good husbands when they get married, it wasn't our fault because
that's right. That's right. That's right.
We taught them a lot.
That is right. That is right. But I want to say thank you. Miss Stephanie Ellis is on here. She's a friend that just recently started coming to Quest. So if you guys see her, if you haven't met her, I would like for you to.
Awesome.
I can't see anybody else that's on here. I know Miss Nita Mustin said a lot of great things, and Miss Michelle Murphy. It was a throwdown tonight. All right. A throwdown. But I want to say thank you to everyone that watched and shared and commented. And I am going to go back and look at some of these comments and see what everybody said, because I know there were some nuggets in there that they say. Oh, your friend Chris is on here.
I know, Carissa.
Yeah, it was good to meet you the other night.
Isn't she sweet?
Or the other day, yeah, she is. I probably like weirded her out a little bit because I'm like, I feel like I know you because you're in my.
Nah, it takes a lot to weird her out.
I feel like I know her because of you, because you talk about her a lot.
Yeah, so anyway. that's my best friend.
Yeah. So thank you for everyone that watched, and I know that you gleaned from these ladies. It was great. Thank you so much. And
thank you for having me.
We'll be back next Tuesday on his lean-in session, and then there is Sunday morning Bible studies Saturday morning. I'm sorry, at 8:00.
Every now and then I do make those 8:00.
I know I do, and Miss Sister Strickling, thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed this. She's faithful to the Bible studies on Sunday or Saturday mornings. I don't know why I'm saying Sunday morning, because I know good and well it's Saturday morning. I know good and well. Yeah, I got that alarm set up here, all that kind of stuff. So, but thank you so much.
Jamie
he is going to be talking about probably still managing feelings and emotions, and Highjacked is talking about dealing with the spirit offense and how it can hijack our faith. And it's something to learn about. If you want to go back and watch them, do that. Everybody, if you don't have a church home, Quest Church in Norman, all three of us go there.
Yes,
I love it.
Great place.
I love it. Me and my husband love it. We can't talk about our bishop enough, who happens to be Crystal's daddy.
Like I said, only good things.
Don't pray.
Yeah, that's right. Jesus.
Help her, Lord. Help her.
Help her. Don't you dare go to Miss Monica talking about the Carrie Austin. I forgot his middle name. What did you say it was?
Carrie Neal Austin.
Carrie Neal. Mine is Antonio Lynn, and he carries that well. He don't care that he has a girl middle name. It's Antonio.
It's a man middle name because he got it.
Right. He is strong enough to know it. That's right.
That's right.
Yes.
So, but anyway, okay, we love our husbands if you can't tell. So, that's a good thing. All right. Well, we love you guys. Thank you so much for watching tonight, and we are out of here.
Bye.
Bye.